Welcome to the remote Australian Outback. Oh man, I'm so hungry. Here we go. Where one guy, after being left for dead in a shallow grave, does the unthinkable to survive with one of the craziest stories I've ever heard. This is the story of Ricky McGee. Welcome back, guys. Now this story is gonna blow your mind. So the year is 2006. A bloke by the name of Ricky McGee is traveling along a remote Australian outback road, not too dissimilar to this. Now, in the middle of nowhere, he spots a car on the side of the road that appears to be broken down. There's three blokes standing out the front of it that wave him down. Being a good bloke, he pulls over, picks one of them up. They say they're out of fuel. So one of them jumps in and they head off to the nearest town. Along the way, Ricky's got a couple of cold rums sitting by his feet. He doesn't mind a drink and a drive. And anyway, they get into one of them. And it's from there, it all gets a bit hazy for our mate Ricky. And that is the last memory Ricky's got for a little while. Ricky is awoken by a pack of dingoes scratching at his face. He's been buried alive in the middle of the Australian desert and covered with a tarpaulin, left for dead. But Ricky's got other ideas. He shoos the dingoes off, and at this point he figures that the bloke he shared a rum can with must have spiked his drink along the way. They are nowhere to be seen, long gone. As far as he can see, as far as his eye can see, it's just remote Australian desert. And this is where we begin our survival challenge of Ricky McGee. So for our survival challenge, I also want to be dropped in a place that I've never been to before. So I'm gonna leave the vehicle here, take a bag, and the plan is now, guys, I'm gonna start walking for an entire day to get as far into the Aussie outback as I can. That's where I'm gonna set up camp. And then tomorrow morning, that's when we'll start the Ricky McGee survival challenge. Just a quick disclaimer as always, guys, this isn't a how to survive video. Actually, I probably wouldn't recommend doing the things that I try. I'm no expert, but just these stories have really spiked my interest lately. So I'm keen to get out there and kind of recreate them in some way and hopefully learn some things as I go. Noticing a heap of animal tracks here, and it almost seems like there's a couple of paths where you can see the dirt is more defined in amongst the scrub here. And there's a whole heap of like animal diggings like this. To me, these look like kangaroo tracks where they're digging, trying to get down to the young roots where they've got a heap of moisture. Let's keep following this and see what we find. The more I follow these tracks, it's led to a little depression behind me here and a whole heap of greenery around the outside. This could be quite interesting. Let's go see what this is. Here's all the tracks. Yeah, it's almost like a crater here. So down in this crater, we're probably maybe 3 meters below ground level here. I was really hoping to find some water down here. There's a heap of animal diggings and it's a lot greener than the outside. Also a nice bit of shade down here, but there's no, I'd wondered whether there was like a cave or a well or something with easy to access water, but I don't think so. We'll have to keep looking. Got my hopes up for nothing with this one. Also guys, exciting news. By the time this episode is edited and comes out, all this new range, B2B range, should be available. These fishing shirts, pretty special material in that it's so hot now, but they're light, they breathe, good sun protection, and yeah, they're pretty good, guys. We're stoked with them. So jump onto our website. All this should be available along with dry bags and a range of other cool stuff. Thanks for the support. So well camouflaged, but I've just stumbled across a couple of little rock wallabies. I'm trying to get down this path here. It's so cool. It seems there's a few of them here. Sweet, I reckon I can get down there. I wasn't sure, it's pretty steep here. All right, probably gonna need 2 hands for this bit, so I've got you on the head mount. Seem to now be following an old, almost an old riverbank or somewhere that'll flood in the wet season. It's cut a bit of a channel through here. Oh, someone's come unstuck here. Pretty crazy set of teeth on him. This fossil. That is awesome. I don't want to find somewhere to set up camp. How's this for a vantage point looking over the valley here? I am trying to keep quiet at the moment. This time of the day, we're a chance of seeing various animals coming out and about. Things like the rock wallabies, kangaroos, dingoes, but they're all pretty shy, especially to a human's voice. So I'm gonna keep quiet, keep going up here and see if we can find a safe place to set up camp for the night. There's a good walking stick. This is my first time coming up here and I probably should have done a little bit more research, but I'm not finding anywhere good to camp. Unfortunately, it's all this kind of just rocky country. But I guess our mate McGee didn't have that luxury of doing a bit of research. He sort of had to camp wherever he could, so let's do the same. I'll just keep, this is an interesting tree. Just heard something here. Trying to get it on the zoom camera, whatever it is. There's a couple little rock wallabies in this cave here. Cool. Just out of sight from the GoPro there's a couple of cockatoos up the top of that hill. And there's a couple of rock wallabies up in that cave up there, looking down at me like, you bloody idiot, you're lost. Animal tracks here. That's probably the flattest, best spot I've found so far. Sort of running out of time. This will have to do. I feel like I've taken the more European approach today and carried a little bit too much. I've got sort of camera gear, drones and tripods and all sorts. I've sort of fatigued carrying that big pack, whereas the Aboriginal people of Australia are far better hunter and gatherers than I am. They would go with pretty much nothing and just back themselves to get food and water as they go. It means they could move a lot faster. I was hoping to find like a cave where I can kind of get out of the wind and coldness through the night, but it's just nowhere really perfect, unfortunately. Can't help but think that maybe just around the next bend there's somewhere better. I've probably got 10 minutes, well that sun's already down, but probably got 10 minutes until I really need a, oh I thought that was an interesting fossil. I've probably got 10 minutes till I really need to set up camp. We'll lose light pretty quick. Maybe this section under here. This looks the coziest spot we've found so far. Actually, what about under here? Not sure if this is cozy or scary as hell, this one. Yeah, there's almost like a bit of a wallow back here where I could set up quite comfy. These strangler figs look like something out of a haunted movie though, don't they? I'm going to settle for this spot here, sleep there, that way I can get a fire going close to camp without burning the whole bloody show down. Everywhere I look looks like a snake hole, doesn't it? Mr. McGee would have done anything for one of these. I feel like tomorrow night, once we're in full survival mode, it's going to be a lot harder. What an invention, eh? Actually, all those ants moving like that is not a good sign. That's where I wanted to sleep, but I've been told when the ants are out moving like that, it means there's rain on its way. Hopefully not tonight. All right, I feel like I'm well and truly out in the Aussie Outback now, and this area is all unfamiliar to me, which is kind of what I was going for on the first day anyway, to kind of feel somewhat what our mate McGee would have felt. Tomorrow's going to be interesting, but for dinner tonight, we've got a bit of a treat. I've come prepared. We've got 2 steaks, and for the first part of McGee's ordeal, he was actually on a cattle farm, and he saw a number of cows, and actually small cows, that he really regretted not having a crack at. He didn't realise he was going to be out there for so long and food was going to be so hard to get later on. So if things had been different for him, he might have even been having some Scotch fillets those first few nights. I doubt we're going to be eating this well tomorrow night though. Also, sorry if I've been a little bit flat today, guys. I think I'm coming down with a flu or a cold. Hopefully it's not too bad and we can get on with it, but yeah, it sort of rattled me a little bit today. Oh man, that smells good. Holy shit, I just got the fright of my life. Maybe I've been watching too many Bigfoot or Yowie documentaries, but that scared the hell out of me. Have a go at that. Just looks like a Yowie, a Bigfoot silhouette. Looking down at us. Gonna be having nightmares tonight, I reckon, but maybe he's a friendly Yowie. I am going to enjoy this tonight because I dare say tomorrow night is probably more likely to be grasshoppers or something similar, not a steak. Oh, it's hot though. Yum, yum, yum. It's pretty cool up behind me there. There's a wallaby kind of looking over the entire valley. Must be wondering what I'm up to down here. Alright guys, I'm just going to take it easy by the fire and read the rest of this book. It's one hell of a read, and I'm going to try and recreate some of these moments that he goes through tomorrow. And then I'm just going to park up there next to the fire and try and get some sleep. We'll see how we go. Hopefully the fire can keep me warm throughout the night. And there's all sorts of weird noises coming down the valley tonight. And it's funny how the desert that is so hot during the daytime gets so cold at night. So I've just been constantly stoking that fire up, and yeah, it's sort of keeping me a little bit warm. But I'll see you guys in a few hours when the sun rises. Oh man, that moon is so bright. Kept me up a lot of the night, but it also got really cold, but I think it's just about morning time. Alright, take some of this charcoal. I'm gonna let this cool down and then actually take some of this charcoal with me. I've got something in mind for a little bit later on. So as the days rolled into weeks and then into months, our mate Ricky McGee had lost over half of his body weight, and this truly is one of the most remarkable stories of survival I have ever heard, and no one will ever be able to recreate or fully appreciate what he must have gone through. But I'm just hoping I can share his story and share how he managed to survive, and hopefully learn a few survival tricks of my own. All right, let's get going. I've got something in mind for this charcoal later. These are the bits I'm looking for. These bigger bits without the dust on them. I'm gonna take as much of these as I can fit in here. All right, let's get moving. All right, our first priority would have been pretty similar to what old mate Ricky McGee's was, and that's got to be to find water or hydration to start with. There's a few things I'm keeping a really close eye on. Number one is looking out for snakes. This area does kind of terrify me a little bit, where it just looks so snaky. So after a number of days of stumbling around the desert to start with, our mate Ricky hadn't found any hydration. and he resorted to having to drink his own urine, drink his own piss. If we don't find something soon, we might have to follow in Ricky's footsteps. It works for him, didn't it? So the other thing I'm looking out for, guys, this kind of depression that I'm following here was once an ancient riverbed, and with that brings a little bit of cool history, pretty amazing history actually. I'm keeping my eyes out for any, say, Aboriginal artifacts, but also go back way back in history. The megalodon, the giant shark, once cruised this area, and we're every chance at seeing some old fossils, and the megalodon tooth as a fossil is really the holy grail that I'm looking for. So let's keep our eyes peeled. Reached a bit of almost a dead end here, but I need to get through. Yeah, this is what I was following. It looked like there's some animal tracks here. These kangaroo or rock wallaby tracks that we're following, they need to find water, so they're a really good set of tracks to follow. They've actually come down here. So we'll keep making our way down this kind of old riverbank to see if there's anywhere we can set up as a bit of a base camp, and hope to gather some hydration and food. Some bones of what might be a rock wallaby here. I know the Aboriginal people and Indigenous people all over the world used the bones for things like spears and even knives, because while they're strong, they can be ground into a very sharp point. See if this comes in handy. Now, I don't think it'd be fair to fully tell the story of Rick McGee without having to go through some of the similar struggles to him. And such a big part of his story, and the reason he reckoned he survived that first period there, was that he resorted to drinking his own piss. Now, a secret between you and I, I've never done this before, but in tribute to you, Rick McGee, let's give it a try. Holy moly, I'm dehydrated. Oh. I think that's a sign that I'm heavily dehydrated. This could be an oh man, it stinks. This could be an all-time low on Back to Basics, guys, but what? It's hot as well. No easy way to do this, but let's give this a try. If it kept Rick McGee alive, it's worth giving it a shot. Holy, I'd rather die and go to hell than do that again. Oh, far out, yuck. Holy moly. I did not expect that to be so bad, man. We need to find a better water source. Oh. I really didn't expect that to be so bad, but I feel like I need to vomit. Oh, shit. That. Oh, don't ever do that. Don't, just die instead. Oh, just come down the valley here and notice a change in vegetation. These reeds here are an indicator that there's water there. There's fresh water there somewhere. Oh, I'm gonna get all this heavy pack off, have a bit of an explore around here. This looks like a good place to start. So for the entire ordeal, Ricky was actually barefoot, the poor bugger. He'd had his shoes taken from him as well, and then he chose to wrap his shirt up around his feet to kind of cushion his feet. So it'd be only fair to kind of kit out the same as he was. So let's get kitted out how he was. Sort of on high alert from snakes here, but yeah, these reeds are an indicator there's water here. And this is surprisingly similar to a lot of the water stops that old Ricky McGee found. Just muddy water. So he found himself on a cattle station, and a lot of the areas where there would have been water was just sort of covered in mud and cow shit. So I'm gonna try and find a way we can clean this muddy, shitty water into something a little bit more presentable. Yeah, I've followed the animal tracks down from there. There's a slight bit of water underneath this rock here and around this side of the reeds. Oh, it opens up a bit, doesn't it? Yeah, it opens up a little bit. Oh, there's a little freshwater hole here. Oh, I don't want to stir it up, but oh man, look at this. Oh, you beauty. It's almost like a little oasis here, eh? The water in here is still pretty dirty though, unfortunately. I'm gonna see if I can clear it up. Not sure if you can eat this, but I reckon you can eat these type of things right down the lower end of them. As far as food went, old mate McGee didn't have much to choose from, but he said he literally just tried to eat anything he thought was edible in terms of grass, lily pads, any type of vegetation or greens he could get his hands on. Something like this looks edible to me as far as animals go. And in terms of meat, he was just trying to get a hold of any little insects he could, things like grasshoppers, butterflies, even leeches. He actually said leeches were surprisingly good. I'll see what I can get my hands on. Yeah, we've got a definite water source here, and in the book, McGee would describe at one point, it was quite humorous. His only water source was covered in cow shit. He said he would just dip his head straight in, grit his teeth, and suck, hoping that his teeth would filter out the shit and he'd be able to get a little bit of water in there. But while I'm not that keen to do it, I'm gonna try and make a water filter to clean up some of this water. Let's go for it. Let's dig this out a bit. Yeah, this is pretty nasty, but this is sort of the kind of similar to what he described, I reckon. Alright, let's give that a crack. That's some pretty nasty water there, but it's kind of similar to what he describes in his book. So step number 1, wash your own piss out of the water bottle. Step number 2, fill it with disgusting water, and then we're going to try run it through this filter we've just made. So the first, I guess, filtration thing is a bit of that fluff off the top of these reeds here behind me. Oh man, that stinks too. So that's going to go on as the first level of filter. Cut a hole in the top here. I've got some small pebbles and stones down to some fine gravel. Ideally I'd like white sand, but I couldn't find any. Once it goes through that, it then comes to our charcoal, the charcoal level of filter, and I'm just going to poke a hole down the bottom with this kangaroo bone. Might have been a bit big, but we'll see how it goes. All right, then that will come down to what we hope is going to be better to drink. All right, let's get this set up and see how we go. So, I think slow and steady with this to let all of the filtrations do their job. That water coming out the bottom is a hell of a lot cleaner than the water going in the top. Now, I probably could speed it up a bit by making more holes, but I reckon the longer you give it, the more it allows the filtration systems to work, and you know, it's coming out nice and clean. So I'm gonna leave it as is. All right, we've got him set up there out of the wind and in the shade. It's just drip, 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 dripping slowly. We'll see how it turns out. So through old mate McGee's entire ordeal, he wasn't able to get a fire going. He tried everything. He tried rubbing sticks together until his hands bled and calloused. He tried rubbing rocks together, smacking rocks together. He prayed for lightning, everything, but he wasn't able to get one going. But it's one of the reasons why I've now been traveling with one of these in my packs, magnifying glass. And there's a whole heap of survival stories where people have used magnifying glasses to light a fire. Actually, the Bark Stefano, which was a recent episode I did, they got a fire going with a magnifying glass, but I was unable to do so that day because I didn't have one with me. Anyway, let's give this a crack. So I'm going to use a magnifying glass and some kangaroo poo and see if this works. All right, some dry grass. This is that kangaroo poo. Oh, it smokes. It's smoking instantly. It's smoking instantly, eh? Look at the smoke going. I can smell a little bit of burning. I'm just going to keep him on there. Man, I'm surprised how quickly this has happened. It only took a matter of seconds, but I'm wondering whether that smoke will ignite. There we go. Woo, we've got fire within a minute. Woohoo! Kangaroo poo. It works. Another manky little section of water here. Alright, let's try to find some food. Oh, wow. This place is spectacular, eh? Before I snuck up on a kangaroo that was here, having a bit of a drink. I'll see if I can still see him. There's a little riverbed that runs all the way up there. Beautiful. What do we got there? That thing looks like it wants to hurt me, doesn't it? Not quite that desperate yet to start eating those ones, but let's see what we can find. What the hell is that? What the hell? Skull Cave. That's crazy. These caves always have really quite a strange feel to them. You never know what you'll find, but there's all sorts of skeletons up here. This one I assume is a goat. I didn't know there was goats in this area at all. And he's done a bloody good job to get up here. I don't know why they're coming up here to die, whether they're trying to get out of the heat or how long he's been here for. Yeah, I'm really not sure. But you never know what you'll find, so. I'm hearing all sorts of, I think they're kangaroos and rock wallabies spooking as I'm talking. Yeah, I'm unsure if I'm going to find like Aboriginal cave paintings from years ago or fossils in the rocks, but it's pretty fun having a look around, and also I'm hoping to find something to eat. Oh, here's a bit of a fossil of something, like an old seashell, or that's pretty cool, isn't it? Sounds like there's a family of rock wallabies that spooked out from here out the back. Oh, these aren't ripe yet. Alright, let's review it to see how our filter went. Look at all the dirt being collected at the very top, all that sediment. So that's very much done its job. The rocks and then down to gravel, they've done their job. Actually might have slowed up a little bit there. And that charcoal has done its job. Each different stage of this, guys, has an important role to play. I mean, it's not rocket science, but you can see it's worked. What was once kind of unpalatable water is now a hell of a lot better down the bottom. there's still a chance of bacteria being down here. So if you were to drink this and you had the luxury of boiling it would be the go. But if you're like our mate, Rick McGee, I'd much rather be drinking that than that or my own piss, to be honest. And you could make a more compact version. You could have all these layers of filtration just in the one little water bottle, kind of more compact. And you could, you know, keep it in your back pocket as you're on the move. Just opening a few of these holes up to see how clean the water gets when we increase the flow rate. Still doing a great job, eh? That is actually quite amazing. I'm pretty surprised and impressed with that, to be honest. But our mate McGee constantly had this battle in his head whether to stay around at, you know, some of these shitty freshwater sources or whether to keep moving and look for a rescue. And anyway, we're going to keep moving and see if there's anywhere better we can find. It's actually taking a fair bit of the smell out of it as well. All right, here we go. Hell of a lot better than my piss. If you were to do this yourself, guys, you'd want to still boil this to get all the bacteria out of it. I'll have a little bit and we'll keep moving. Oh wow, it is scorching hot now. We need to find a better water source again, I reckon. This riverbed looks promising, how there's these kind of little pools on it. I'll keep following it and see what we find. Oh. Wow. Holy, this is an oasis if I've ever seen one. Wow. Oh, little rock wallaby under the shade there. But more importantly, we've found water. This looks like fresh water too, and there's little fish in here. Ew. Oh, this is paradise. I'm gonna have to set up camp here somewhere. So after a period of time of sort of wandering around hopelessly through the desert, Ricky found a permanent water source, and it was just like an absolute savior to him. He basically just jumped in. He said he swam around with his mouth open, just gulping in water. And then that also allowed him a bit of a food source over the next kind of couple of weeks, even couple of months he was there. He'd kind of go around the riverbank and do his best to catch what he could. He managed to get frogs and crabs, and I've actually spotted a few little fish in here. So I want to try set up a fish trap to catch them, and then we're gonna have to jump in and cool off as well, guys, because it is scorching hot. Looks like there is a couple of these little figs that are starting to ripen up. Plenty of green ones, but only a couple of ripe ones. All right, I'm gonna make a really simple fish trap. One plastic bottle, the same pissy plastic bottle we had before. Now let's chop the top off it. I've got the luxury of using a Leatherman, a pocket knife here. If I did have sort of 71 days to spend mucking around out there, I'd probably just use a sharp stone would work as well, but pocket knife is a hell of a lot easier. And then we're just going to fold this in on itself. The simple idea being that fish are going to swim in there looking for protection, but I'm also going to put a secret bait in there. Fish will swim on in, get disorientated, and won't be able to get their way out. As for a bait, it might sound silly, you might not think of it, but these little figs, fish actually eat these, hey. Watch this. No way, that's a big one. He came right up at it, yeah. These fish will actually eat these figs when they fall out of the tree. That's crazy. So this is gonna be a good bait for us. I didn't realize there was one that big in here. He'd be a great meal. How cool is that? Need holes in it so it sinks. All right, let's see if we can catch some fish. So even if they're not interested in like eating these, just the smell of something different will, I'm hoping, attract the fish to come in and check it out. Right, I need a vine. That might be close to long enough. Crazy how it wraps up like this, isn't it? Super strong. Alright, that's probably long enough. There's a heap of little fish here. Down she goes. When I threw the fish trap in, oh, he's come back. And the splash, that big guy came over. It's like he's the boss of this little pool. Actually, right now he's checking out the fish trap. As I was walking down the valley earlier, I noticed a big cave, but it was far too hot to go exploring back then. But now I've cooled down and there's a little bit of breeze. I'm gonna go back up the range, and I'm really keen to get into this cave and see what's in there. It's looks pretty interesting. All right, I wanna keep pretty quiet as I go up here. I'm gonna strap you on my head, just in case we sneak up on any kangaroos or wallabies or anything like that. Fossil. What an amazing spot, hey? Pretty special view over the entire valley. I had wondered whether I could sleep up here. It looked a little bit flatter looking from down below, but I don't really want to spook the rock wallabies too much that are up here. A couple of those ones, this was their little hole here as I came up, and I reckon I could have caught those ones if I was so inclined, but these guys are now protected, so no rock wallaby on the menu tonight. I'm gonna catch my breath for a little minute and then we'll head back down. Ooh. You guys see that cave over there? Pretty keen to go have a look in that one. Just spotted some really cool fossils. Look at this. Two sides of like a bivalve seashell. That's amazing, eh? How cool is this almost little capsule, tiny little cave. Now I know us as humans evolved out of the caves and built cities a long time ago, but I reckon there's something deeply ingrained, deep in our, like the bottom of our DNA, that still attracts us to caves. You know, they provide us with warmth, they keep us safe, they keep us dry. And this one especially has got a bit of a presence about it. I mean, check this out for a view. I'm tempted to sleep up here tonight actually. I was pretty cold last night out in the elements. So I'll see what else I can find, but I might sleep up here. I know I should probably be spending more time looking for food, but I'm enjoying the cave hunt, because you never know if you're going to find some sort of like Aboriginal spearheads or Aboriginal cave paintings or some megalodon teeth. Actually, here's some food right now, conveniently placed here. These are tiny little figs. Pretty tasty actually, those ones. Spider reckons it's a pretty good spot as well. Alright, let's head out of here and check what our other options for a shelter would be. But this looks pretty promising to me. And I'm going to put in sort of a half hour of power to see if we can get some protein for dinner. No one's home. There's a little bird's nest there. Wonder if there's any eggs. Nice little nest there, but no eggs. Wonder what type of bird that's for. Got a nice view from up here. Looking at absolutely no fish go into my fish trap. Little buggers. Oh, I'm not having much luck on the food hunt at the moment, but I guess one thing that Rick did show is that the most important thing when you're out here is to have fun. No, not at all, not to have fun. The most important thing has got to be fresh water. And thankfully we've got an abundance of it right behind us here. And this is what's going to keep you alive, as it kept Rick alive. But yeah, I'd love just a little bit of food, but I'm struggling to find even like a grasshopper or a little crab or anything at the moment. I would love to have walked through this type of area with you know, the Aboriginal people back in the day that managed to not only survive here, but they thrived here. So I'm sure I've walked over countless amounts of food, but unfortunately that can't happen. These birds are carrying on, coming down for a drink. The other thing, just a little bit of gear would really help right now. I've seen some nice big fish, and even just a hand line or a hand spear or anything, I'd really back my chances with them. But my little fish trap ain't working at the moment, and yeah, it looks like I'm gonna get hungry tonight at this stage. Right up the very top, not the rock wallabies, the kangaroos that are trying to make their way down. These are their tracks all around me here. They must come down for a drink right on sunset. They're a little bit suspicious with me here. Yeah, once again, they're off limits to hunt for me, but the Aboriginal people were very successful with a spear. Everything here just looks like a bloody snake at the moment. All this wood. Now, once Rick found his permanent water source, he pretty quickly got to making a little shelter, an upgrade from his shit sandwich, but just. The mosquitoes drove him absolutely mad, so he needed some coverage. It got really cold at night and really hot during the daytime. So what he did, he got the mud out of the dam, like this type of muddy consistency, and these reeds like this, and he built himself basically like a little cocoon that only stood 60 centimeters high, a hollow mound like that where he could just literally crawl in lengthways, and that's where he spent the majority of his time. But then picture this for a second. This sort of paints the entire picture for me. So over 2 months being stranded in the desert, he's withering away, and a pack of dingoes come around, and they know he's not far off being on the dinner menu himself. The dingoes will scavenge and eat stuff that is about to die or just dead. And every night he'd go to bed, the dingoes would come and sort of check on him through the night to see whether he was dead or alive, and in the morning he'd have to kind of shoo them off. It then got to the point Rick wasn't sure if he was going to wake up the next day. He was really sort of knocking on death's door. So he was quite determined. He didn't want to let the dingoes be able to get to his dead body remains and then scatter his bones all over the desert. He really wanted the story to eventually come out and his remains to be found in this cocoon. So every night he would go to bed by going legs first and kind of crawling backwards into his cocoon, and then with mud he would close the entrance to his cocoon every night so the dingoes couldn't get him in his sleep. He was sure at any moment, you know, the dingoes were going to take their chance. He was that weak, he wouldn't have been able to fight back. So he would patch the door, close the door up, keep the dingoes out. The next morning he would kind of like worm his way out of the mud just to go down to the water's edge, get like a sip of water, come back and repeat the process. And this is quite ironic actually. So a number of times he'd seen planes flying overhead. He wrote a big SOS in the sand. Oh, and I've been doing my best to avoid planes so they don't think I'm some castaway stuck in the desert. Oh no, he's done a loop on me. Oh man, I really hope that's not a search party. It's nice to know in Australia that there is a chance a search party's out looking for you, but it's not what we want at the moment. But poor old Rick would have loved a search party anyway, so he saw planes going over regularly, which he assumed were going to do the mail run. He'd wave and wave and wave. He wrote SOS in the sand, but no luck. One day a helicopter came so low, he was sure he was going to be saved. He reckons he made eye contact with the bloke in the helicopter, waving, waving, waving. But the chopper didn't stop and kept on going. So yeah, poor old Rick constantly got his hopes up with these planes, but never got saved. Oh, these cockatoos are actually a really good bird if you're in a survival situation. They're noisy as all hell, annoying, but you'll hear them from a mile away, and this time of the day, right as the sun is setting, they'll always come down for a drink of fresh water. They need fresh water. Actually, most seed-eating birds would need fresh water. So that's what they're doing right now. If we didn't know about this, these guys would have led us right here. These cockatoos will also lead you to food. They're getting stuck into these figs behind me here. This is the actual best food I've found all day, this fig tree behind me here. All right, time to move over the other side and get set for heading up to the cave for the night, I think. Alright, we're in. I'm not sure if this is going to be cozy or terrifying, but it's the best option we've got. We've committed to it, so we're going to be spending a night in the rock wallaby cave. It's nice and warm, actually. Last night when the dew came down, I actually got quite cold through the night. I might even get a little fire going out the front here. I'm not sure if this is the best idea, actually. It seems I'm just smoking out the sleeping quarters and there's no through breeze coming in. So I'm gonna give this like literally one more minute and see if we get any through breeze coming in. But otherwise, this is a bad idea. Oh man, that looks so idealistic, eh? Just, yeah, it's not gonna work with the smoke. Bugger. That's a bad idea. We need to put this out without lighting the valley on fire now. Oh, bad. Oh, smoke could be out. Bad idea. Holy moly, it's not one of my best ideas. At least there'll be no mosquitoes in here now. Actually, I'm not sure if I'll even be able to stay in here for a bit. I need to extinguish this and then get out of here. Ugh. Bad idea. All right, I'm gonna evacuate here and let some of this smoke filter out. Let's go have a fire somewhere else. Oh man, be able to get one of those little rock wallabies at the moment. So cute, eh? Look at him just here. It's a really nice time of the day now, or turning into nighttime. The last of the birds are off to bed, and then hopefully some nocturnal animals come out to play. I'm just gonna hang out here for a little bit and have a bit of a torch to see if anything comes out underneath the water here that we can catch at nighttime. Things like crabs or yabbies or turtles or anything like that. So we'll have a bit of a look and then head off to bed. Little fish everywhere. No way. I've just torched into the shallows and I've seen a mud crab, a big one, and that's the first sign of like anything worth eating I've seen. I couldn't believe it. Oh man, I'm so hungry. All right, come on, let's get this going. This is a horrible spear, by the way, but I hope it works. Believe it, by the time I went and grabbed a makeshift spear, he's gone. It was a big mud crab. I got no idea what he's doing up here in the fresh. Bugger. Well, it's worth having a bit of a look around then. Oh, look at the torch is low. Or just smaller mullets spooking. My torch is running out of battery, so I'm just going to do a quick lap here, see if we can get lucky. I could just about taste that mud crab. I thought we were going to get him. Yeah, that is pretty creepy. So I was just looking to see where my cave is, and the fire that we put out literally an hour ago in the cave has now lit back up there. Yeah, I need to go get to that. And I'm running out of battery on both torches. Yep, so mud crabbing is over. What the hell? This one needs to go in the water. Whew, bloody hell. Need to try and get the heart rate down a little bit. I'm pretty excited after seeing that mud crab and then running back up here. Whew, the smoke seems to have disappeared, so this is our best option, guys. I'm not sure how much sleep I'm going to get, but we're going to do our best to get some sleep in the cave here. Good night and sweet dreams, Mr. Spider. It's a lot dustier and not as flat as I'd hoped, but we'll see how we go. See you guys in the morning. Pretty exhausted, to be honest. I think that flu is getting the better of me, and dehydration. Overall, I'd give the cave probably a 4 out of 10, or maybe a 5 out of 10. It kept me warm. I noticed there was a fair bit of wind outside last night, but it was nice and still in here. But all this fine dust, yeah, I just felt like that got in every orifice, up my nose, ears and eyes, and yeah, I'm feeling pretty average this morning, to be honest. But let's have a little bit of brekkie, have a swim. Hopefully that makes us feel better. These are the same figs that those cockatoos were eating last night. Don't need much, but you just need a little bit of food every day. Lightly coated in dust. Alright, let's go get on with it. Let's go check if our fish trap caught anything overnight. No way! Looks like there's a fish in there. I think our fish trap has worked. It's worked. Did well to get in there. I'm stoked with that. We've caught a fish, guys. And looks like he's died in there overnight. The whole kind of setup of this fish trap is that they can get in there one way, and then it's quite difficult for him to get out. And I imagine he'd either die of stress, sometimes they do. All right, let's get him out. There we go. A cute little fish for breakfast. Let's go cook him up, eh? Now you could just eat this straight up raw, but with the luxury of fire, he might be a little bit better on the coals. All right, I'll take his guts and gills out. These guts and gills will be perfect bait to put back in that trap. And this is going to be a lot more incentive for a fish to swim on in there than those little fig fruits we had in there to start with. And then I'm going to put the fish straight in on the hot coals. Hasn't taken too long, but I reckon he's pretty well done. Let's have a look. That skin should just peel away. And we've got some nice white meat on the underside there. Yum. Not going to waste a drop of this. Very, very nice. There's only so many figs you can eat before you crave a bit of meat, in my opinion. Ricky showed you didn't need much. Just every few days he'd get a little frog or a lizard or something, and that was enough to keep him going. That sun has now popped its head above those rocks and it's warming up this entire gorge, which is really nice. Although I've caught bugger all this time around, it's somewhat fitting. Now, no one is really ever gonna experience the full pains and struggles that Rick McGee went, and nor should they. That was what he went through was crazy. But in some way, I wanted to feel some of the similar struggles to what he would have. So in terms of like going hungry, the discomforts, having to drink your own piss, a shitty night's sleep, I wanted to kind of sample a few of those things without going full Rick McGee mode. I felt these little things would help me better tell his story. After 71 days lost in the desert, Rick McGee was half asleep, half dead, in his little sort of mud coffin that he'd built himself on the edge of the water, and he heard the distinct noise of a gear change outside. He dug himself out almost like a worm coming out of a mud hole, and he looked up and he couldn't believe his eyes. It was a motor vehicle with two blokes in there that were coming down to check the level of the dam, because this dam provided water for the cattle station. The two blokes couldn't believe their eyes. They got the fright of their life as they saw this skeleton, zombie looking thing coming out. They actually got their shotgun out and were ready to shoot, unsure what the hell this thing was or whether it was a rogue dingo. There was a fierce standoff until they realized this bony skeleton looking thing was a living human, and it was Rick McGee. And he'd managed to survive one of the most intense ordeals which I reckon few people on the planet Earth would ever manage to survive. So mate, you must have a hell of a lot of determination. Well done on the bare minimum bit of bush tucker and a little bit of fresh water. Congratulations, Rick McGee, you're a survivor, mate.